My husband refused to touch me on our wedding night and says that it's my fault. Our wedding was only 2 weeks ago, and to this day, he still has not touched me. Here's the thing, we had an arranged marriage. My family is extremely traditional, and where we come from, it's normal to have arranged marriages. When I was 12 years old, my parents told me who I was going to end up marrying. This all seemed very normal to me growing up because I saw my sisters and cousins doing it. But now that I'm in this, I realize how terrible it is. My now husband didn't actually grow up in the same country I did. In fact, we had only met a week before the actual wedding. I had a really bad feeling a month before the wedding though. So I told my parents I did not want to marry him. That's when they told me that if I didn't go through with the marriage, they would disown me. I would have nowhere to live, no money, and no family. So, of course, I agreed to marry him. A week before the wedding, my parents hosted a dinner for his family and mine. When he came in through the door, I was happy to see that he was actually attractive, but he didn't look at me once throughout the whole night. We finally met a week before the wedding. When he came in through the door, I was so happy to see that he was actually attractive. But this man barely looked at me the entire night. Parents presented us to each other, and he glanced at me. That was it. He was extremely cold and basically didn't speak to any member of my family. The only person he did speak to was my father, of course. I spent the entire dinner trying to make eye contact with him, but not once did it happen. Thankfully, the dinner only lasted about 2 hours and his parents and him left. As soon as they did, I burst into tears. Also, I know I'm a beautiful girl. I've had many suitors come to my house and ask my parents for my hand in marriage. They had agreed to this arranged marriage so long ago that it never even gave any other guys a chance. The worst part is that one of the guys that asked to marry me a few years ago, he and I went to the same school, got along, and dare I say liked each other. At least he would look me in the face. I told my parents that he didn't even look at me once. My dad said that I was completely overreacting, but my mother agreed with me, thank God. She told my dad that my fiance's behavior was completely unacceptable, and that the least he could have done was at least said hello to me. My mom was also upset that he didn't even say hello to her, and that he was openly disrespecting our family. I tried to convince my dad to cancel the marriage, but he said no. He refused to look at me on our wedding day. He didn't even kiss me once. The only time he touched me that night was when the photographer asked us to hold hands for a picture. And even then, the way he grabbed my hand was so cold. When it came time for us to go to our room, I was already very upset. He could tell. We got into the room and I went straight to the shower. I took off my dress, showered, and came out. And when I did, he pretended to be asleep. That's when I grabbed him and turned him around. I asked him why he wouldn't touch me or even look at me. That if he didn't want to marry me, he shouldn't have. That's when he told me that he never really wanted to marry me because he had heard things about me. He said that we had some mutual friends, but he refuses to tell me who these friends are. He claims they told him that I had a secret boyfriend and that I had dated many men, which couldn't be further from the truth. First off, my parents are super strict. The only time I was unchaperoned was in school. And he said, "It's your fault, I will never touch you." I started to cry and I called my parents. I literally ran away from him. I told my parents what he said and thankfully they were on my side. My father says the marriage is void if he refuses to have children with me. But guess what? I started doing some digging and I found out that he was the one seeing other women and men. What should I do?
Am I the asshole for switching from non-dairy to dairy milk and accidentally making my flatmate shit herself at an interview? I'm not lactose intolerant. I buy hazelnut milk because I like to have hazelnut syrup in my coffee. And adding hazelnut milk makes it even more nutty. My flatmate is severely lactose intolerant and has been drinking my milk ever since she moved in a few months ago. I don't have an issue with sharing milk with her, but the issue is that she drinks so much of it. I'll only get a single cup of coffee out of an entire carton. Sometimes she'll drink the entire carton before I've had a single drink. She never replaces it, refunds me, or even acknowledges that it wasn't hers to drink. At some point, she stopped buying her own milk and I was having to buy new milk daily. I asked her multiple times why she was drinking my milk and said if she does, can she buy a new carton? She would say sorry, she just grabbed the first milk she saw. And that she'd get me a new one, but just never would. She started getting annoyed when I brought it up and would say I was being dramatic when I mentioned how much it cost. Last week I got sick of it and decided to go back to drinking dairy milk thinking she would buy her own milk, and I thought wrong. The dairy milk was clearly labeled, but she still helped herself. Unfortunately, the day she decided to drink dairy milk was the day she had a new job interview. The effects of dairy-laced coffee she took with her kicked in and she was in the middle of it and she didn't make it in time. She came home absolutely furious and laid on to me about how I ruined her life. How this job was an opportunity that she needed and I destroyed it for her by being selfish. Also that I did it deliberately because I didn't want to share. She thinks I'm in the wrong because I knew she was lactose intolerant. So by switching to dairy milk when I knew she was drinking my milk and might potentially drink it again, I was putting her at risk. Also that milk sharing isn't a big deal and that I'm selfish. She thinks I was overreacting and I should have spoken to her about it instead of secretly changing milks. She has also threatened to report me to the police.
My dad made a lot of money in the stock market when he was young. Both my sister and I were born and raised in a mansion. Our favorite game was hide and seek because there were so many rooms in our house where we could hide. We had 4 nannies from 4 different countries so that we could learn different languages. Sometimes when we woke up, my mom would say, "Girls, let's go shopping." We would jump on a plane to New York City and shop till we dropped. You see, we had a fairy tale life. Last year, unfortunately, it all came to an end. My dad used to own a big company that developed shopping malls. When a crisis hit the property market, he couldn't pay back the loans he took out from the banks. The banks confiscated not only the company's property, but also my dad's personal assets. They came to our house and took away all the furniture, my mom's jewelry, the paintings on the walls, and the luxury cars in the garage. After a while, they kicked us out of the house, too. That's how our fairy tale ended. We moved into a small apartment. My dad wanted to talk to us that first night. "We've lost everything we had. We're going to have to build a new life from scratch, but don't worry. I've done it once before." And I was alone then. "This time we'll do it together," he said. My mom and I were really moved. We hugged my dad with tears in our eyes, but my sister didn't join us. She told Dad, "I can't live like a poor person. You're the reason why we're in this mess. And that's why I hate you." My dad was really shocked. At first, he didn't know what to say. Then, looking really sad, he told her, "You're right. It's all my fault. But give me some time. I'll fix everything." Dad had a little bit of money left. He wanted to use it to start a new business. He did some research. Finally, he decided to open a car wash. My mom and I wanted to make some money to help out, too. She started giving piano lessons. I was doing translation work through freelance websites. I wish Dawn would have joined us. It was the time for our family to work together, but she wasn't able to accept the fact that the good old days were over. She had just started college. She was taking a bus that brought her from our house straight to school, but she complained all the time. One night she said, "Dad, I can't take it anymore. I really need a car." A homeless guy sat next to me on the bus this morning. I had to get off and walk because I couldn't take the smell. My dad gently said, "You can take my car if you like. I'll take the bus. We can't afford a new car right now." To this, Dawn said, "Dad, are you calling that thing you drive around a car? Even the homeless guy wouldn't take that piece of garbage if you offered it to him," and laughed at him. Dad couldn't get mad at my sister because he felt guilty. "Okay, you're right. In that case, your birthday present this year will be a car," he said. Dawn was so happy she hugged him, saying, "Oh, Daddy, you rock!" Dad had just opened the car wash. We knew that he had invested every single penny he had into that business. How was he going to buy this car for Dawn? I couldn't understand how my sister could be so inconsiderate. Her birthday is April 16th. As the date approached, she was asking my dad what kind of car he was getting for her. He tried dodging the question, saying, "I want to surprise you." Finally, her birthday arrived. My mom woke up really early to prepare a beautiful breakfast. All around the house, she put little cards that said happy birthday. But Dawn didn't care about any of that. After getting up, the first thing she asked Mom was, "What kind of car did Dad get me?" I thought Dad had gone to work, but it turned out he had gone out to bring the car he got for Dawn. He came in as we were having breakfast. Dawn jumped up saying, "Dad, where's my car?" Dad gave her a little box with a smile on his face. She knew the keys were inside. She wanted to see the make of the car as soon as possible. She tore open the wrapping paper. She was happy when she saw the Kia logo on the key. "Did you get me an SUV? Not the brand I was dreaming of, but thanks anyway," she said. Then she hurried outside. And we went after her. Dawn started bawling as soon as she saw the car, because my dad didn't get her an SUV, but the smallest model Kia had. I thought it was a really cute car, but my sister did not think so. "So this is what you think I deserve? What is this, a toy car?" she asked. My dad was really upset. "This was what I could afford. Drive this for now. We'll get you the car you want when we start doing better." But Dawn wasn't listening to him. Burning with rage, she started screaming at him. "Dad, today is my birthday. Do you understand? My birthday. I wanted to be happy for just one day a year, but you couldn't even make that happen. How can you call yourself a father? I don't think you deserve to be called one." After she was finished, she threw the key at my dad and ran home. I'd never seen my dad so upset. He fell down to his knees. He held his head. My mom went to him. She held him. They stayed that way for some time. Then suddenly my dad got up. He picked up the car keys from the floor. He got into the car and quickly drove away without saying a word. My sister didn't leave her room until the evening. My mom and I were preparing dinner. Dawn came out with eyes bloodshot from crying. She looked surprised. She said Dad called her to say, "Come outside. I have a big surprise for you." When we came outside, we couldn't believe our eyes. My dad was standing next to a brand new Porsche SUV. Dawn jumped into my dad's arms screaming with happiness. Then she ran to her car and got in. My mom and I were so confused. Yes, this would have been a regular birthday present in the old days, but it was impossible for Dad to be able to afford such an expensive SUV in our current situation. It wasn't until a few weeks later that we found out what had happened. My sister adored her new car. She started chauffeuring us around just to have an excuse to drive it. She was driving me to school and my mom to the homes of her students. One day, she came to pick me up after school. When I got in the car, she said, "Shall we stop by Dad's work?" We can get my car washed too. It hasn't been washed since I got it. I was still not talking to her because I was so mad. I just nodded. When we arrived at Dad's car wash, the man in the front took the car and drove it inside for the wash. Dawn said, "Let's get cupcakes. Dad loves them." There was a bakery right across the street. We went and got them. Then we returned to the car wash. We looked into Dad's office, but he wasn't there. We knew the guy at the register. "Hey, Fred, where's Dad?" we asked. He pointed outside. We couldn't believe our eyes when we saw what he was showing us. My dad was washing Dawn's SUV. The strangest thing was that he was wearing blue overalls and yellow rubber boots. He was dressed like all the other workers. I had to ask Fred, "Why is Dad washing cars?" "So you two don't know?" he said. When we said, "What should we know?" he said, "Your dad sold the car wash a couple of weeks ago. He doesn't own it anymore. Now he works washing the cars." We were all surprised, but he said that he had to sell it right away because he needed the money. It's a shame, really, because the business was doing really well. My dad sold the car wash in order to be able to buy my sister the car she wanted. Otherwise, there was no way he would have been able to afford it. Both my sister and I were completely shocked. Dawn was very remorseful, but of course she couldn't turn back the clock. That night, she apologized to my dad again and again. My dad said, "I'm responsible for everything we lived through. I shouldn't have put my family in this position. You deserve that SUV." But thankfully, my sister had understood her mistake. "No, Dad, I'm a spoiled brat. I don't deserve anything. I wish I had realized it before. Even if you forgive me, I won't forgive myself for a long time." My sister never touched the SUV again. She got a job washing dishes at a restaurant. She goes there after school and works until late at night. She doesn't earn much, but everything she makes she brings home without touching a single penny. By the way, my dad refused to sell the SUV no matter how much my mom insisted.
I was a child when my dad broke up with Mom. He told her, "It's over between us because you look old. I can't date a woman with wrinkles on her face. It's embarrassing." After that, Mom was never the same. She became super sensitive about her looks. And when I tried on makeup for the first time, she told me, "Oh, now you try to be prettier than me?" "No, Mom. I was just playing around a bit." "Well, you look like a filthy tramp. I bet what you really want to do is seduce the boys in your class. You make me sick." Soon after, things got even worse. She started overeating and got so fat that she hated me for being thin. She told me, "You are too skinny. Here, I made you bacon." "No, thanks, Mom. I'm not hungry." "Huh? Are you afraid to become fat and ugly like your mother?" Of course I didn't want my mom to hate me. I was just a little girl after all. So I became overweight for her. But that didn't satisfy her either. She told me, "Ugh, now you look like a piggy. I'm ashamed to have you as my daughter." That same day, she started an extreme diet where she ate nothing but sunflower seeds and lemonade for 4 months, losing 120 pounds. And she only did it so she could be prettier than me. She told me, "Look at my figure. Don't I look like a hot teenager?" "Yes, Mom, you are gorgeous." Meanwhile, at school, all my friends abandoned me because they didn't want to be seen with the fat girl. I became a complete loner, and it was all my mom's fault. That's why I wrote in my diary, "Dad was right to leave Mom. She is ugly and hideous. That's why she hasn't found a new boyfriend yet." What I wrote was super mean, but she deserved it. Afterward, it took me 3 years to lose the weight and find my first boyfriend, Ben. But my mom somehow spotted Ben's reflection in one of my Instagram photos. She came and told me, "You are 15 and already sleeping around? You disgust me." "No, Mom, I'm not sleeping around. I have one boyfriend and I'm loyal to him." "Really? Then why do you always dress like a hooker?" That's when she went to my dresser and threw out all the clothes that she didn't like. But when she got to my underwear drawer, she found my diary. I screamed, "Hey, that's mine! Give it to me!"
Well, I'm your mother. I can do whatever I want.
I never felt more scared in my life. She read it calmly, page by page, until she found that one passage where I had written about her. She turned to me and said,
So you think I'm ugly and can't get a boyfriend?
"No, I wrote that years ago when I was angry. I didn't really mean it."
Wow.
First, my daughter turns into a street worker, and then she calls me ugly? You will regret this, badly. I was petrified. And the next day, she pulled me out of high school so she could homeschool me. She told me, "Solve all these math problems before I'm back from work at 6. She wanted to torture me, but of course I just Googled the answers. And once I was done, I made Ben come over. I had some exciting things in mind. But right when I took his shirt off, my mom called. She screamed,
I know he's there and I'm coming.
At first I was terrified, but then I realized that it was too late to change things anyways. So we barricaded the door and I continued making out with my boyfriend Ben. It was exciting. When Mom couldn't get in, she started banging against the door, but we just kept kissing. Well, until Mom picked up a sledgehammer and smashed in the door. She said,
This will be the last day of your life.
She didn't exaggerate because she bought a 1-meter rope and tied us together. Now I had no choice but to stay at her side all day. She only took the rope off when I had to pee or go to sleep. I even had to accompany her to her office job. She somehow got me an internship there, even though I hated it. And after a year, I finally had enough, so I came up with an escape plan. During lunch at work, I went to my mom's boss table and said, Hey, I'm Miley. I've heard you are such a great manager. Oh, I'm not sure about that. Well, can I come by your office later today? Maybe you can give me some career advice. Of course, I love to do that. Normally, I don't like older guys, but he was my mom's boss and that made it exciting. And anyway, there was nothing wrong with it. I was 16 and that's the legal age of consent here in the UK. After talking with him for a few hours, he offered me a job as his personal assistant. I accepted it and suddenly spent most of my day right next to his desk. We flirted non-stop, but when I went for the kiss, he said, I'm sorry, it's not lawful for an adult in a position of authority to be with someone under the age of 18. What? That sucks. I thought we could have some fun together and maybe even become a couple. Well, we can date each other, but first you have to quit your job here. And if you want, you can even move into my apartment. I'll pay for all your expenses, even your education if you want to go back to school. I resigned the same day, sat down on his lap to kiss him and said, My dad left me when I was a small girl, but now I have you. Thanks so much. Today, I'm 20 and my mom is still working for my boyfriend. Meanwhile, I'm studying at university to get my degree. Yay! Life seems perfect.